Very good evening to all of you. So today topic is import and export. We will spend 2 classes on this topic, important topic, and you will enjoy because its entire chapter is practical. Also, I will try to ask certain question on the previous chapter, that is place of supply. I assume that all are remember the provision of the place of the supply chapter. So we'll start in just 1 minute. Very good evening to all, Viraj and everyone. So the definition of import of goods, definition of the import of the goods means bringing into India from a place outside India. What is the import of the goods? Import of the goods means goods are bringing into India from a place outside India. Whether amount should be in the foreign currency, no condition. What should be the place of the supply? No condition. What should be the location of supplier, location of recipient? No condition, because we are talking about import of goods. In the same manner, if we talk about export of goods, it simply says that goods goes to outside India from India. It means in the definition of the import of goods or export of the goods, what is the relevant factor? Only movement. It is immaterial that in which currency amount is being given. So please note, I am talking about the definition. However, when we will discuss about the refund provision in the respective rules, we will discuss that in case of the export, amount has to come in the foreign currency. But that is associated with the refund provision, not associated with the definition. So if I have purchased the goods from outside India and it bring to India, then it is import, and vice versa. If I have taken goods from India to outside India, then it is export of the goods. But the situations are different when we talk about the services. Now, first understand the definition of import of service and export of service, and then we'll move to the chapter. Export of service has 5 conditions. कितना condition है? 5 conditions. If all the 5 conditions are satisfied, all the 5 conditions are satisfied, then only it is called as export of service. First is location of supplier. I am writing in short LOS. It should be India. Second condition, the location of recipient should be outside India. Then place of the supply should be outside India. Now this place of the supply would be determined according to section 13 of IGST Act. Now next condition is amount should come in the foreign currency. Yeah, wherever the RBI has permitted, then amount can come in INR. If RBI has permitted, then only amount can come in INR, like Nepal, Bhutan. We have the RBI has given the permission that in case of the Nepal and Bhutan, you can receive the realization in the INR, no problem. Like if I am receiving the amount in Indian Vostro account, then there is an RBI permission, so it will considered as export of service if all the conditions are satisfied. Now the 5th condition, the supplier and recipient should not be mere establishment of distinct person. ये क्या condition है? We will discuss in detail in the respective part. We are not discussing right now. मैं आपको सिर्फ brief दे रहा हूं. What are the conditions for export of service? Should not be the mere establishment of the distinct person. And here they have referred section 8 का explanation 1. Explanation 1 to section 8 of IGST Act. So we will discuss. Comparatively, if I talk about what is the definition of import of service, what is the definition of import of the service, then there are only three conditions. There are only three conditions. What are the three conditions? The location of the supply should be. Now, if I am importing the services, it means the location of the supplier is India की outside India. अगर मैं import कर रहा हूं तो supplier का location क्या होगा? Outside India, right? It will be outside India. Because I am importing the services, so my location, recipient location will be India. And the place of the supply is India. As per section 13 of IGST Act. And amount, there is no such condition, and relation, there is no such condition. So we have understood one thing, that regarding the import of the service, there are only three conditions, and regarding export of the service, there are 5 conditions. I request everyone, please write somewhere in short, or you take the photo of this particular page. Why I am saying so? Because we will do the multiple small case study on this concept. Meanwhile, one question to all of you. What is the place of the supply in case of intermediary services? According to section 13 of IGST Act, if the service is intermediary in the nature, then what is the place of the supply according to section 13? Can anybody tell me what is the location of, so what is the place of the supply according to section 13 if the nature of the service is intermediary? So that is my question. Take the photo. We'll discuss in some time the small case study on this concept. Next is, let's move to the chapter. Now, import of the goods. We have discussed the definition for import of goods, import of service, export of the goods, and export of service. Correct? Let's move that section 5 of IGST Act. Basically, it is a charging section. In the reverse charge mechanism, you have read section 9 subsection 1, 9 subsection 2, levy and collection of tax, and reverse charge 9 subsection 3 and 9 subsection 4. Five subsection 1 is a charging section. It is exactly similar to the 9 subsection 1, but main part is the proviso. What is 5 subsection 1? Subject to the provision of subsection 2, we will read, there shall be levied a tax called IGST. A tax called IGST on all interstate supply of goods or services or both. But they are excluding which transaction? Alcoholic liquor for human consumption. On which value the GST would be charged? According to section 15, that is transaction value. At which rate? Notified. but the maximum tax rate would be 40%. Maximum tax rate would be 40%. So when I will read the section 9 subsection 1 of CGST Act, all provision, all language are same, but instead of the 40, the rate is written as 20, because we know that 20% CGST, in case of the intra-state supply, equivalent amount or percentage would be for SGST. क्या मतलब हुआ कि 20% CGST and 20% SGST. So the total tax rate, maximum tax rate under the GST regime can be 40. As of now, there is no item which is having the tax rate of the 40%. As of now, we are having the highest tax ka bracket is 28, which is notified. I am saying, but the law permit highest tax rate kitna ho sakta hai? It can be 40%. Very good evening. And collected in the manner as may be prescribed and shall be paid by the taxable person. So fine, it is clear. It is a repetition. Now, what is the proviso says? Proviso say that IGST on import of the goods imported into India shall be levied and collected in accordance with the provision of section 3 of Custom Tariff Act. It means if I am importing the goods, importing means obviously from outside India to India, that we have discussed the definition. If I am importing the goods, then where it shall be levied and collected, which provision? According to the custom, not according to the GST. I hope in the GST return, you can recall the point that the IGST on import of the goods, we are not required to report under the 3.1 tax liability. We are only taking the ITC. Only taking the ITC. Why? Because IGST is being paid through custom at the time of custom clearance. ICAI एक website का नाम होता है. We are paying the IGST on import of the goods at the time of custom clearance. And that is the reason we are not paying the IGST on import of the goods through GSTR 3B. That is the only tax which we are paying. That is the only GST which we are paying outside the GST portal. Okay. Now, on the value, which value? As determined according to the said act. It means again custom tariff act. At the point when the duties of the custom are levied on the said goods under section 12 of the custom act. So when we are importing the goods, everything would be determined according to the custom. Now, whether import of goods is a interstate supply or intrastate supply, section 7, which define the interstate supply. Can anybody tell me that? Can anybody tell me in the definition of interstate supply? In the definition of interstate supply, please tell me which two locations we are considering. Out of these three locations, which two locations are to be considered to decide whether my transaction is inter or whether my transaction is intra? One is location of supplier, one is location of recipient, one is place of the supply, or one where the service has been rendered, service or goods has been given, rendered. My question is, in the definition of interstate supply, let's say I am registered in Maharashtra, supplier. You are registered in Delhi. You are registered in Delhi. And let's say because of any reason, place of the supply comes to Mumbai. And effective use is also Mumbai. Then please tell me, when I am raising the invoice to you on Delhi GST number, I am registered in Maharashtra GST number. Please tell me will I charge C plus S or will I charge IGST? My question was that according to section 7 of IGST Act, to decide the inter, or according to section 8, to decide the intra, which two locations are to be considered, LOS, LOR, POS, or actual rendering, actual place where the service has been rendered or goods has been given. And then you tell me that if, oh, Prerna, you asked one point, can you please repeat? Now it has been received. Sorry, it is missed by me probably. So either you can ask in the break or you may ask at the end. I think you are talking about definition part, right? You are talking about the definition part, है ना? So I'll repeat, definitely I'll repeat, either in the lunch break, sorry, जो भी अपना break होगा बीच में 15 मिनट का, or at the end of the class, I will definitely repeat. So you have correctly given the answer that we will look into the location of supplier and place of the supply. So this is Mumbai and this is Mumbai. Therefore, my transaction is intra-state, and which tax will be charged? In this case, C plus S would be charged. C plus S would be charged. Okay. Now let's say section 11, let's read the section 11 of IGST Act. What is the section 11? So 7 subsection 2, which says that if goods are imported into India, then it shall be treated as interstate trade or commerce. It always says that if it is an import of the goods, it is interstate trade or commerce. So at the time of custom clearance, we need to pay always IGST on import of the goods. Whether import of the goods is reverse charge. क्या import of the goods reverse charge है? My simple and plain question, whether import of the goods is reverse charge. If you go to the definition of reverse charge, if you go to the definition of the reverse charge, you will find that import of the goods are not covered. It means, see, in the import of the goods and in the reverse charge, one thing is common, that recipient is paying the tax. Recipient is paying the tax, but it doesn't mean that import of the goods is reverse charge. So whenever the reverse charge point comes into your mind, please do not say that import of the goods is a reverse charge. No, I do agree that tax is paid by the recipient in import of the goods also and in normal RCM also, but import of the goods is not RCM. Why not RCM? Because definition does not cover. अब आते हैं regarding the place of a supply. So according to section 11 of IGST Act, if I am importing the goods, then place of the supply would be the location of importer. Place of the supply would be the location of importer. And similarly, if I am exporting the goods, what is the place of the supply? Location outside India. According to section 10 and 11, the place of the supply for import and export is, if it is import of the goods, then location of importer is the place of the supply. If it is export of the goods, then location outside India is the place of supply. Now we'll move to the custom related part in some time, but that we will cover in the analysis, through analysis, section 12, section 3, etc. We will cover through analysis part, because tax is paid by the taxable person in the taxable territory. In case of the reverse charge also, for example, if I am importing the services, Mansa, If I'm importing the services, then also the tax will be paid by the recipient in the taxable territory, but that is reverse charge. In case of the import of the service, that is called as reverse charge. But import of the goods, tax is being paid by Indian person only, Indian entity only in the taxable territory. But if it is import of the goods, it is not RCM. If it is import of service, it is RCM. Why? Because you need to read the definition of the reverse charge wherein they have not covered the import of the goods. ठीक है मानसा, please confirm so that I can. Now, the taxable value of imported goods for levying IGST, Section 3, subsection 8 of the Custom Tariff Act. The value of the goods for the purpose of levying IGST is the assessable value as determined according to Section 14 of Custom Act, which is custom duty levied under the Act and any other sum chargeable on the said goods under any law in force as custom duty excluding GST. Because if you recall the section 15, if you recall the section 15 subsection 2 of IGST Act, CGST Act, section 15 subsection 2 of CGST Act, which talks about the 5 things would be included in the value. We are talking about the valuation chapter, section 15, which talks about the transaction value. In the 15 subsection 2, the first clause says any taxes paid other than GST will be included in the value. So, on which value we will charge IGST? Value as determined according to the custom plus custom duty or any other sum as custom duty, cess, etc. But we will not include IGST and GST compensation cess. Why? Because 15 subsection 2 clause A say that it will never be included in the value. Point number 1. And similarly, the things has been given in section 3 subsection 8 of the Custom Tariff Act. Because we are talking about the import of the goods. So the value will be determined according to the Custom Act. Wherever the goods are also levied to the GST compensation cess, same is collected on the value taken for levying IGST. In other words, IGST paid shall not be added to the value for the purpose of calculating compensation cess. Matlab, not to be added to the value for the purpose of calculating compensation cess. वैल्यूएशन का एक बेसिक फंडा है, जिस भी वैल्यू पर मुझे जीएसटी चार्ज करना है, ठीक है, तो उस वैल्यू में मुझे टैक्स तो लेना है, बट अदर देन जीएसटी हो. In case where the imported goods are liable to anti-dumping duty or safeguard duty, value for the purpose of calculation of IGST as well as compensation cess also include these all taxes, duty, etc. So now in terms of the formula, we can say that value for levying the IGST on import of the goods is value determined under section 14 of the custom, that is assessable value. How it will be calculated? Basic custom duty, any other sum leviable under any law for the time being in force as custom excluding GST and compensation cess. Example and the illustration showing the calculation is being given in the custom law, book 4. Module 4 is there, correct? Now let's move further. Applicability of IGST on goods supplied while being deposited in the custom bonded warehouse. क्या point है? Applicability of IGST on the goods supplied while being deposited in the custom bonded warehouse. Custom Act permit the goods that have been entered into India to be deposited in the custom bonded warehouse on filing into bond bill of entry without payment of the duty. The importer is at the liberty to transfer the ownership of such goods to another person while the goods remain deposited in the warehouse. क्या हो रहा है यहां पर? The goods has been deposited in the custom bonded warehouse and the goods has been supplied, sold without filing the bill of entry for home consumption. So when the goods are being deposited in the custom bonded warehouse, then which bill of entry will be filed? Into bond bill of entry will be filed. Now, if the goods is remain in the custom bonded warehouse and now it has been supplied on the basis of the title or ownership of the documentation, on the basis of the documentation, title has been transferred by Mr. A to Mr. B. Will Mr. A required to pay the IGST? मैं रिपीट करता हूं, IGST on the goods supplied while deposited in the custom bonded warehouse. If the goods are in custom bonded warehouse, then I'm not required to pay the duty. Just need to file the bill of entry without payment of duty. The importer is at the liberty to transfer the ownership of such goods to the another person while the goods remain deposited in the warehouse. Then what would be the treatment? It says that however supply of the warehouse goods to any person before clearance for home consumption is neither supply of the goods nor supply of the service according to Schedule 3. Can we see, let me refer to the Schedule 3. In the Schedule 3, there are total 8 entries. Total 8 entries. Serial number 5, I talk about little bit. Serial number 8, I will talk about little bit. 8 have 2 entry, 8A, 8B. And entry number 7 also I have to discuss. 5 we will not discuss. Only 7, 8A and 8B we will discuss. Now, Schedule 3 means, can anybody tell me what is the Schedule 3? Schedule 3 means the list of the activity where no consideration, whether it is talking about whether my transaction is goods or services. What is the Schedule 3 or negative list? आप Schedule 3 को क्या कहेंगे? Is it without consideration transaction? Is it goods or services का bifurcation? Or is it negative list? धनुष, मैं रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा यार कि आप थोड़ा सा वीडियो पीछे करके देख लेना. जब हम ब्रेक लेंगे 10 मिनट 15 मिनट का, उस टाइम अगर आपको नहीं समझ में आया ना तो आप वापस पूछ लेना ब्रेक के बाद में. आई विल एक्सप्लेन. सेम प्रेरणा आपको भी ब्रेक जो अपना 10-15 मिनट का होगा उसमें आप वो डेफिनेशन पार्ट को रिपीट कर लेना, देख लेना वीडियो को. क्लियर हो जाए तो आप मुझे कंफर्म कर देना. अदरवाइज व्हेन वी विल रिज्यूम आफ्टर द ब्रेक आई विल एक्सप्लेन द डेफिनेशन पार्ट टू यू एंड धनुष व्हाटएवर यू आस्किंग. So absolutely correct. Schedule 3 is negative list, or I can say neither supply of the goods nor supply of the services. ना तो वो गुड्स है और ना ही वो सर्विसेज. ठीक है. अब एक बात बताइए. लेट मी टॉक अबाउट द पैरा 8A फर्स्ट. What is the para 8A? Para 8A talking about supply of warehouse goods. Supply of the warehouse goods before filing the bill of entry. Which bill of entry? into bond bill of entry? No, sir. It is bill of entry for home consumption. Now, this part we are discussing right now. If A, who is an importer, has deposited the goods into the custom bonded warehouse. Now, A has sold the goods on the basis of the documents. He has transferred the titles. So now it is a sale in the hand of A. A will raise the invoice to B. Will the GST be leviable on this transaction? क्या इस ट्रांजेक्शन के ऊपर मुझे जीएसटी देना है? Do I need to pay the GST on this transaction? Mr. A, whether he is required to charge the GST. When he is selling the goods to B, both parties are in India. Both parties are in India. Whether he is required to sell, whether he is required to pay the GST on this sale of goods. Which goods? Which is being lying in the custom bonded warehouse and sold prior to filing the bill of entry for home consumption. Answer would be no. No GST. Answer would be no GST. That is clear. That is clear. Thank you. Does it have any impact of reversal of ITC? Do I need to reverse the ITC? My point is very clear. Do I need to reverse the ITC? So let's say I am A. I have sold the goods custom bonded warehouse on the basis of the document to Mr. B. Because it is covered in the schedule 3, so I am not required to pay the GST on my this outward supply. Let's say there is some ITC. Do I need to reverse the ITC because of this sale or not? That is my question. Requesting everyone to give the reply. Do I need to reverse the ITC? Now the problem, try to understand one thing. Try to understand one thing, that this is one amendment which I will take care in the amendment class also. But if you see, when we have discussed the ITC chapter, I'm talking about section 17 subsection 3. Mohammed, the question of ITC, see, Mohammed, you are asking some different point. A has sold the goods to B. Now you are saying to B. Mohammed, you mean to say B can claim the ITC, is it? But B, when he purchased from A, there would be no GST at this point of time. When he filed the bill of entry for home consumption, he need to pay the IGST, of which he can claim the ITC. That part is absolutely correct. That part is absolutely correct, no doubt. Whether A need to reverse the input tax credit, क्या A को अपना ITC reverse करना पड़ेगा? For that, let me move to the ITC chapter. मैं study material open करता हूं. Allow me 1 minute. I'll open the study material of ITC chapter, wherein I have discussed in length सो मोहम्मद, ये आपका पॉइंट तो क्लियर हो गया राइट ना? योर पॉइंट इज क्लियर. सो still I'm waiting for the reply from all the participant. Do I need to reverse the ITC? Meanwhile मैं open कर रहा हूं the respective slide of the ITC chapter, the respective page of the ITC chapter. But meanwhile I request everyone, please give the answer, and if you can give some reasoning कि why there is a requirement of reversal and why there is no requirement of reversal. This is the study material, page number 28, chapter number 7, ITC का chapter है, and that we have discussed. Now I like to highlight only this part. 17 subsection 3 says that if you have the exempt supply and if you have the taxable supply, then you can take the ITC to the extent of taxable supplies. You have to reverse the ITC to the extent of exempt supply, that we know. The meaning of exempt supply has been widened by the section 17 subsection 3. Perfect. What is the point which I like to highlight? They are saying schedule 3 per se is not exempt supply. Schedule 3 per se is not exempt supply, and therefore if it is not exempt, then I'm not required to reverse the ITC because of schedule 3. But they have excluded two para. They have excluded two activities from the schedule 3, which will be considered as exempt supply. इसका मतलब क्या हुआ? इनको हम exempt supply मानेंगे, and because it is exempt, I need to reverse the ITC. Which are two activity? Sale of land and completed building, which is para 5 of the schedule 3, and this para 8a, value of the activity or the transaction as may be specified in para 8a. What is the para 8a? What is the para 8a? The para 8a talks about sale of warehouse goods before filing the bill of entry for home consumptions. We are talking about question point number. So, okay. So, Mohammed, you mean to say there is no point of reversal in the hand of A? Do you mean to say that there is no requirement of reversal in the hand of Mr. A? Just asking. Your point is valid. So, I have to explain to everyone. But first, I'm asking the counter question to you. Does it mean that there will be no question of reversal because there will be no ITC in the hand of A? This means that A को reverse कुछ भी नहीं करना पड़ेगा because he has not paid the IGST. This you mean to say, right? Now, we have understood A need to reverse the ITC. But the question which Abdul has raised is valid question. क्या A के पास ITC है IGST का? Answer is no. See, we are not talking about only IGST ITC. We are talking about any ITC which is linked. Might be that custom bonded warehouse in which I am keeping the goods. Might be the custom bonded warehouse is charging the rent amount for keeping the goods. Let's say they are charging 10,000 rupees rent. They will charge GST on that. Can Mr. A take the ITC? Here the question is, can the Mr. A take the ITC of the rental part? Let's say there is clearing and forwarding agent who does this clearance filing of into bond bill of entry, or he's doing the documentation part for supply by A to B, and he's charging 5,000 rupees for this sale. Which sale? Para 8A wala sale. And he's charging 18% GST. Can Mr. A take the ITC? I do agree there will be no IGST because it is covered in the para 8A. On the sale, there is no IGST. On the import, he is not required to pay the IGST till the time he filed the bill of entry for home consumption. Now, A is not filing the bill of entry for home consumption, and therefore there is no question of IGST on import of the goods. But we are not talking about only this. We are not talking about only this IGST ka ITC. We are talking about other ITC which might be linked to this goods, which is sold and not liable to GST because it is covered in the para 8A. Now, there is an amendment in the 17 subsection 3, and this particular part has been added recently. This particular part has been added in the recently, and therefore, now this will attract the reversal. Now this will attract the reversal. Is it clear? Everyone, please confirm. Abdul, your point is valid. I hope I have given the answer. And if you still have the doubt, you may ask any question. Everyone, requesting everyone. Namrata, Mansa, Mohammad, Kirti, Viraj, Prerna, Dhanush, सब कंफर्म करें प्लीज. Now, ठीक है, तो ये जो आईटीसी है ना, ये आईटीसी भी नहीं मिलेगा. क्यों नहीं मिलेगा? बिकॉज दिस 17 सबसेक्शन 3 के एक्सप्लेनेशन में पैरा 8A एंड पैरा 5 को exempt supply मान लिया गया है. It has been treated as exempt supply these two transactions of the schedule 3. It means schedule 3 की अगर मैं बात करूं, if I talk about the schedule 3, these two are exempt and require the reversal as per 17(2), but rest not treated as exempt. They are not treated as exempt. Rest activities are not treated as exempt and therefore no reversal. ठीक है, let's move to the chapter. So ये तो क्लियर हो गया. अभी हम वापस इस चैप्टर पढ़ाते हैं. So now this part is clear. It is to be noted that basic custom duty paid on the warehouse goods at the stage of X bonding. It is to be noted that basic custom duty paid on the warehouse goods at the stage of X bonding is calculated on the value determined under section 14 of the Custom Act at the time of the filing of into bond bill of entry. Okay. However, value of the import of the goods for levying IGST in case of the supply of the warehouse goods is determined as under transaction value or value as per the custom at the time of filing into bond bill of entry plus basic custom duty plus any other sum leviable under any law other than GST, whichever is higher. If the goods are sold more than once while being deposited in the warehouse, then last transaction value is taken as the transaction value for the purpose of determining IGST in the manner given above. Okay. If only part of the goods are sold, two values that are to be compared are transaction value of the goods sold and the proportionate value of that custom is basic custom duty, any other sum, etc. इसका proportionate calculation हो जाएगा. The remaining goods are assessed on the value determined under section 14 of the custom plus basic custom duty and other sum leviable because it is not being sold. So therefore the transaction value will not come because the remaining, see, it says that part of the goods are sold. So the goods which are being sold, we have to determine the value by comparing the two value, transaction value or the proportionate assessable value, and the remaining goods which are not sold. Then how to determine the value? Then we do not have the transaction value because we have not sold. So we have only one value, and which one is, and that one is the assessable value according to the custom section 14. So we have to determine according to that. Now, the taxability of high seas sale. What is the high seas? High seas is a common trade practice whereby the original importer sell the goods to the third person before the goods are entered into India for custom clearance. It means, let's say Mr. A has purchased the goods from UK and it has been moved to the India, but in between, it is not yet reached the custom. In the para 8A, it has reached the custom and into bond bill of entry has been filed. But in the high C sale, into bond, it has not yet reached the custom. So it means it is sold prior to the entry into custom territory of India. Then it is called as high C sale. After the high C sale of the goods, the custom declaration, that is bill of entry, etc., is filed by the person who buy the goods from the original importer during the said sale. Now let's say A is an importer. He has sold the goods to Mr. C. He has sold the goods to Mr. C on the basis of documentation during the high siege. Now, he has sold the goods to C. Now, when C filed the bill of entry for home consumption, he need to pay the GST. Supply of the goods by the consignee to any other person. So, by the consignee, and by endorsement of the document of the title to the goods after the goods has been dispatched from here, but before clearance for home consumption, is again considered as neither supply of the goods nor supply of the service because of the para 8B. Now, we had the detailed discussion in the reversal of ITC point. Please tell me, because of this para 8B ka sale, because of this high C sale, A required to reverse any ITC. क्या A को कुछ ITC reverse करना पड़ेगा because of this sale on which he is not paying GST? He is not paying GST because it is covered in the Schedule 3. So, क्या इस सेल के लिए A को ITC रिवर्स करना होगा? Answer is no. Why no? Because just now we had the discussion that 17.3. Just now we had the discussion 17 subsection 3, which define the term exempt supply is including only two entries of or two activities of Schedule 3. कौन कौन से दो एक्टिविटी है? पहला पैरा 5 सेल ऑफ लैंड एंड कंप्लीटेड बिल्डिंग, दूसरा पैरा 8A, that is warehouse goods before filing the bill of entry for home consumption. Only these two entries are considered as exempt supply. Rest of the entries, Schedule 3, rest of the entries are not exempt and therefore the reversal ka question will not arise. Be careful. Okay. Further, the value of the IC sale is not included in the value of the exempt for the purpose of reversal. That is clear. And it says that as per the section 14, the value for the purpose of charging custom is the value at the time of import, that is at the time of filing the bill of entry. IGST on import of the goods is also levied at the time of the filing bill of entry. Therefore, in case of the high C sale, the assessable value of imported goods for levying custom, for levying IGST is determined on the basis of the price paid by the last buyer who filed the bill of entry for home consumption. This things is almost same in the sale of warehouse goods before filing the bill of entry for home consumption. If there is multiple sale when the goods are deposited in the bonded warehouse, then the GST would be payable only at the time of last clearance. The transaction value will be considered, will be used the last price at which the goods are being sold. Last sale ko consider karna, and here also they are saying is determined on the basis of the price paid by the last high seas sale. Buyer will file the bill of entry. Okay. Now there is a circular 33 which talks about that importer would be required to furnish the entire chain of the document. Importer would be required to furnish the entire chain of the document such as original invoice, high seas sale contract, detail of service charge, commission paid, etc. to establish the link between the first contracted price and the last transaction. This circular is of custom. Third country shipment. Now, third country shipment is, so I have talked about that we will discuss mainly 3 para of the schedule 3. 3 transaction of the schedule 3. Para 8A we have discussed, para 8B we have discussed, now we are discussing the para 7. How GST determine not clear. Namrata, देखो, fine. They are saying A has sold the goods to B, let's say B has sold the goods to C, C has sold the goods to D, and D is basically finally filing the bill of entry at Indian custom port. He is filing the bill of entry for home consumption. Then they are saying what could be the price, what could be the value. So first the value will be for the purpose of charging custom duty, that is import goods, is value at the time of importation. Which value? That is at the time of the filing of the bill of entry. If the IGST, so whatever the last price, last buyer who is purchasing that goods and now filing the bill of entry, ye jis price par ye deal karta hai, that will be the transaction value. And we know the transaction value or assessable value, whichever is higher, that we will take for the purpose of valuation. IGST on imported goods is also levied at the time of the filing of the bill of entry. Therefore, they are saying in case of the high seas sale, the assessable value for levying custom and IGST is determined on the basis of the price paid for the last high seas sale to file the bill of entry for home consumption. Is that okay? We know that para 8A, para 8B, and para 7 is covered in the schedule 3. So there is no doubt that do we need to pay the GST on the sale? Answer is no, because it is covered in the negative list, schedule 3. It is covered in the negative list, schedule 3, so GST to nahi pay karna. Do I need to reverse the ITC? Answer is para 8A will attract the reversal. However, para 8B that we have discussed just now, high seas sale, or para 7 which we are discussing right now, third party shipment, I hope it is clear, Namrata. If it is not clear, please confirm. I will repeat my point once again. बेटा अगर ये क्लियर है तो मुझे कंफर्म करें, और अगर ये नहीं क्लियर है तो मुझे बताएं. So I will repeat once again. I do not mind to repeat. So fine. Third party, third country shipment. Third country shipment or triangular trade. ठीक है, क्या होता है? It's a common practice in the international trade whereby the goods move from one country to the another country without touching into India. So it means I have purchased, I am from Delhi and purchased the goods from UK and directly sold the goods to USA without being entered into India. Now this entry are covered in the para 7 पैरा 7 एंड देयरफॉर, मैं रिपीट कर दूंगा नम्रता, 2 मिनट रुकना, मैं रिपीट कर दूंगा पीछे वाला पॉइंट एक बार, मैं पहले ये वाला पॉइंट एक्सप्लेन कर दूं. Now it says that if I am purchasing the goods from UK and without being entered into India, it is directly being sold to the USA. Then I can say that it is nothing but the third country shipment, and it is out of GST. And plus, I am not required to reverse my input tax credit. They have given the example. Example A is a registered person in India, received the order to supply the goods in USA. A find the supplier in Singapore C and ask him to supply the goods to B in the USA. Now, A will raise the invoice to C. A is Indian party and C is Singapore party. And also, B receive the invoice from A receive the invoice from B. That is for purchase, and B is from USA. Am I right now? Let me repeat once again. क्या कह रहा हूं मैं? There is 3 party A, B and C. B is from USA, C is from Singapore, and A is from India. The goods ka movement is directly from B to C, but the invoicing would be first from B to A, that is A ka purchase invoice, and A will also raise the invoice to C, that is sale invoice. So A is registered in the GST. A is registered in the GST. On this purchase and on this sale, whether A required to pay the GST, the answer is no, because it is covered in the para 7 of schedule 3. Sale of goods from non-taxable territory directly to the non-taxable territory without being entered into India. Without being entered into India. It is like bill to ship to model. Absolutely correct. B के लिए ये bill to ship to model है. He is raising the bill to A and is shipping the goods to C. और A के लिए कौन सा मॉडल है ये? A के लिए कौन सा मॉडल है? Bill from, dispatch from. He is raising the bill from here to C, but goods are being dispatched from USA. So in that case, para 7 says that this transaction will not be covered in the GST. Para 7. Now again, because schedule 3 are exempt, are not exempt. Schedule 3 are not exempt. Therefore, no requirement of reversal. We need to reverse only because of 2 entry, para 5 and para 8A. What is the para 5? Sale of land and completed building. What is the para 8A? Custom bonded warehouse का goods मैंने sale कर दिया before filing the bill of entry for home consumption. I hope it is clear. Value of the such third country shipment is not included in the value of the exempt supply for the purpose of reversal. ठीक है. Before moving to the taxability of the goods imported by SEZ, let me try to once again discuss about this point. First, I will read the provision and then I will explain with that small example. ठीक है. As per section 14 of the custom, the value for the purpose of charging custom duty on import goods is the value at the time of importation. ठीक है. What is the value? The value means at the time of filing the bill of entry. ठीक है. IGST is also being levied. So we know that at the time of filing of bill of entry, first is CGST, first is custom duty, any social welfare cess, etc., any custom cess, plus we need to pay IGST. Correct. So now the question is, at which value we need to calculate the custom duty, at which value we need to calculate the IGST. That is the only point. Now it says, in case of the high seas sale, the assessable value of imported goods for levying custom and IGST is determined on the basis of the price paid by the last high seas sale buyer who filed the bill of entry for home consumption. What is this? A is importer. Basically, A has purchased the goods from B. B is from USA, and he has raised the invoice of rupees, let's say $7,000. Okay. Now, when the goods were on C, A has sold the goods to another party, let's say Ravi, in $7,500. Now, Ravi has also sold the goods to, let's say, Sankar in $8,000. And Sankar has further sold the goods before filing the bill of entry, before reaching the goods in India. He has sold to the Mr. D, let's say $8,500. Now the question is, at which value the custom and IGST will be calculated? It says that it will be calculated on the basis of which price? A ka price, B ka price, Ravi ka price, Sankar ka price, D ka price, kis price par? It says that custom and IGST will be calculated the price paid by the last buyer. Who is the last buyer? Mr. D is the last buyer. Now he is doing the custom clearance. He is doing the custom clearance. See, in this example, I am assuming the last buyer is from India and he is filing the bill of entry. Let's say that goods has been sold to the John, Mr. John from UK. Will that John will file the bill of entry for home consumption? Answer is no. Will it be taxable? Again, it is not taxable because it has been purchased and being sold from non-taxable to non-taxable territory. No question of GST. In this entry, high seas sale, we are assuming the last buyer is from India filing the bill of entry for home consumption. When he filed the bill of entry for home consumption, custom would not be calculated on 7,000. Custom and IGST would be calculated on the price paid by the last buyer, that is 8,500. Is that clear? Namrata, ek baar confirm karna. Is that clear? And Prerna, are you there? And one more. Dhanush, are you there? Prerna and Dhanush, are you there? So that I can explain your part also. I have to explain. Some confusion are there, which I have not seen at the same time. So I have just parked and I told you that I will repeat. I will confirm at the time of near to the break. So agar aap hain, to I will discuss your question, your query. Any other query? If you have, please tell me. So Prerna, you were talking about definition part. I think definition is being, yes, this part you need to understand, right? So what we have discussed, see, we have discussed that import of goods and export of the goods. First, we have discussed this definition. Definition of import or export of the goods is very simple. They have only one condition. What is the condition? For export of the goods should be moved from India to out of India. And vice versa, in case of the import, the goods should be moved from out of India to India. That's it. They are not talking about any currency realization. They are not talking about place of the supply. They are not talking about supplier ka location, customer ka location, relationship, nothing. Only one condition, that it should be moved from India to out of India for export, and vice versa from out of India to India for import. That is simple condition. But when we talk about the service, then export of service will be the service transaction will be called as export if 5 conditions are satisfied, and it is cumulative condition. All condition has to be satisfied. Supplier, because in case of export, let's say I am giving the consultancy to the Mr. John of UK. So where am I? I am from Delhi and I am giving the consultancy to the UK. So my location is India. Yes. And customer ka location is outside India. Place of the supply should be outside India. How to determine the place of the supply? Section 13. What is the difference? What is the difference in section 12 and section 13? Can anybody tell me? ये section 12 और section 13 जो हम यूज करते थे place of the supply decide करने के लिए, what is the difference? So I know that section 12 and section 13 would be used to determine the POS for services. इन दोनों में difference क्या था? इन दोनों में difference क्या था? What is the difference between 12 and what is the difference between 13? When I will apply 12 to determine POS, when I will apply 13 to determine POS, I know that both are related to the service transaction. When I am required to calculate the place of supply for services, when I need to calculate the place of the supply for services, then I will apply either 12 or 13. What is the difference? Yes, when location of supplier and, please highlight, and location of recipient both are in India, and here location of supplier or location of recipient, any one, not both, any one is outside India. It means one party is in India and one party is outside India. So in case of the export, wow, very nice friend, बहुत बढ़िया. So in case of the export, what we have discussed, that one location of the supplier should be India, location of recipient should be outside India. Then I can say that because one party is in India and one party is in India, one party outside India, right? One एक outside India और एक India में. So obviously the POS would be determined according to section 13 of IGST Act. And amount should be received in the foreign currency. However, if it is permitted by Reserve Bank of India, it can come in INR. I have given two examples, like Nepal and Bhutan, amount can be realized in the Indian rupees. Still, it will be considered as export. And second, I have given the example like Indian Vostro account realization is being received by me in Indian Vostro account. Again, there is an RBI permission, so there is no requirement of so it is to be treated as export of service. And the last condition, supplier and recipient should not be the mere establishment of distinct person, and they have linked section 8 ka explanation 1. Explanation 1 of section 8 of IGST. Yes, we will discuss in next class on Thursday. We will discuss this particular exports of service wala part, but till now we have completed the definition of export of service. 5 conditions: supplier India, customer outside India, place of the supply outside India, amount foreign currency or INR if RBI permit, and 5th, supplier and recipient should not be the distinct person. What about import of service? Only 3 conditions are there for import of service. Supplier, this time because I am importing, so supplier would be outside India. Recipient is in India and POS would be in India. That is only 3 conditions. No condition with related to the foreign currency. No condition related to the distinct person transaction. Is it clear? Prerna, एक बार confirm करना. Is it clear? So I can move to the next part. That is taxability of the goods imported by SEZ. Let me ask quickly 5 questions. Let me ask quickly 5 questions. Quickly 5 questions. Give me the answer of the 5 questions. What is the schedule 3? What is the schedule 3? Please give me the quick answer for the 5 question. Just simple revision for 2 minutes. What is the schedule 3? What is the schedule 3? Question number 1, what is the schedule 3? Answer is negative list, or I can say neither supply of the goods nor supply of services. Question number 2, which entries do I need to reverse the ITC for schedule 3 ka supply? By which entry I need to reverse the ITC because of the schedule 3 transaction? Which are the 2 entry by which I need to reverse any ITC if it is linked to schedule 3 supply? शेड्यूल 3 की वो कौन सी 2 ट्रांजेक्शन है जिसके कारण मुझे आईटीसी रिवर्स करना पड़ेगा इफ देयर इज सम लिंकिंग? शेड्यूल 3 की वो कौन सी 2 एंट्री है जिसके कारण मुझे आईटीसी रिवर्स करना पड़ सकता है? Absolutely correct. Namrata has given the right answer. Prerna, no. No. Kirti, half answer you have given. Right. So, by which 2 entry I need to reverse the ITC? Schedule 3 की कौन सी 2 एंट्री है? पैरा 5A 5 and पैरा 8A. Para 5 and para 8A. What is the para 5? Sale of land and completed building. What is the para 8A? That is custom. I have kept the goods in the custom bonded warehouse and I have sold before filing the bill of entry for home consumption. Now, please tell me, when I am depositing the goods in the custom bonded warehouse, do I need to file the bill of entry for home consumption or do I need to file the bill of entry into bond bill of entry? मुझे कौन सी बिल ऑफ एंट्री फाइल करनी पड़ेगी? इनटू बॉन्ड बिल ऑफ एंट्री or bill of entry for home consumption? Which bill of entry will be furnished when I am depositing? I am importer. I am depositing the goods to the custom bonded warehouse. Which bill of entry would be furnished? Is it bill of entry for home consumption or is it into bond bill of entry? Right answer is into bond bill of entry. Into bond bill of entry. In case of the export of the goods, what should be the place of supply? To decide that transaction is export of the goods or not, what should be the place of the supply? मुझे ये डिसाइड करना है कि मेरा ट्रांजेक्शन एक्सपोर्ट ऑफ द गुड्स है या नहीं है, तो उसके लिए प्लेस ऑफ द सप्लाई की कंडीशन क्या है? व्हाट शुड बी द प्लेस ऑफ द सप्लाई? My question is, I am deciding whether my transaction is export of the goods or not. What is the condition related to the place of the supply? क्या कंडीशन है फॉर एक्सपोर्ट ऑफ द गुड्स विद रिस्पेक्ट टू प्लेस ऑफ सप्लाई? It should be India, it should be outside India, or it should be something else. Please answer that to decide the export of the goods, what should be the place of the supply? Answer is, for export of the goods, it is not relevant कि that क्या place of supply है. For export of the goods, the place of the supply is not relevant. The condition for export of the service only physical movement from India to out of India. Doesn't matter what is the place of supply. Correct? But when we talk about the export of service, it is correct. You are saying correct that the place of the supply should be outside India. The place of the supply should be outside India if it is export of the service. Last question. Quickly tell me how many conditions are there for export of the service. Quickly tell me how many conditions are there for import of the service. एक्सपोर्ट ऑफ सर्विस के लिए कितनी कंडीशन है और इंपोर्ट ऑफ सर्विस के लिए कितनी कंडीशन है? काइंडली क्विकली टेल मी हाउ मेनी कंडीशंस आर देयर फॉर एक्सपोर्ट एंड हाउ मेनी कंडीशन how many conditions are there for export of the service and how many conditions are there for import of service? That is the last question. Then we will take the break of 15 minutes. We will take the break of 15 minutes. We will resume at 7:30 and please give the answer of the last question. Yes, absolutely correct. For export, it is 5 condition. For import of service, it is 3 condition. So मैं अशोक जी से रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा एक बार ब्रेक स्टार्ट कर दीजिए 15 मिनट के बाद So we were talking about that para 7, para 8A and para 8B of the schedule 3. Okay. Now we are talking about taxability of the goods imported by SEZ unit. So goods imported by unit or a developer in the special economic zone for authorized operation are exempted from whole of the GST leviable under section 3 subsection 7 of the custom tariff act. Void this notification. So if they import any goods, which goods? Provided it should be for authorized operation. Now this term we will discuss in the refund chapter also, wherein we will discuss that if you are exporting the goods or services, or you are supplying the goods or services to the SEZ unit or developer, but that should be for authorized operation, then it will be called as zero rated supply. And what is the zero rated supply? What could be the implication of the GST, that we will discuss in the refund chapter. But yes, whenever we are talking about SEZ unit or developer, the word authorized operation will always be associated. Here also we are talking about that if the goods were imported by the SEZ unit, then it will be exempted from whole of the IGST under section 3 subsection 7 of the custom tariff act. Void this notification. They are saying taxability of goods imported by EOU. Goods imported by export oriented undertaking attract liability to custom duty. Import of the goods by 100% EOU are governed by this notification, and EOU are allowed duty-free import under the said notification. However, the exemption will be subject to fulfillment of the specified conditions. Import as baggage. The passenger baggage is exempted from IGST as well as GST compensation cess. The basic custom duty at the rate of 35% and the applicable social welfare cess is leviable on the value which is in excess of the duty-free allowance provided in the baggage rules 2016. So these are the basic concept of the import of the goods. Now let's say import of service. Let's move to the import of service. Now for import of the service, I always use one chart. Import of services. We have discussed the 3 conditions, correct? Now, import of service versus supply. Section 7. I can say that if import of service are in relation to the business, in the course of furtherance of business, and there is consideration. Is it a supply? Is it a supply? क्या वो supply a transaction? Answer would be yes. According to section 7, that will be the supply. ठीक है. Let's say if there is a consideration, but transaction is in the course or furtherance of business or not. Is it a supply? Again, answer is yes, it is a supply. क्या ये supply? Answer is yes, it is a supply. 7(1) subsection B. Then, if it is for business, but there is no consideration, क्या वो supply है? Answer is yes, it is subjective. Because if you go to the schedule 1 and last para 4, which talks about import of service from other establishment outside India or from related party, it means this particular import should be from related party or it should be from other establishment outside India of the same company, then in that case, we can say, yes, it is supply. So we have discussed three parts. If there is a business, there is a consideration, no problem, it will always be supply. If it is like not for business, like personal, but consideration is there, still it is a import of service. And third is, if there is no consideration, we know that schedule 1, which talks about activity or the transaction. Schedule 1 talks about activity or transaction which will be considered as supply even without consideration. So in that schedule 1, para 4 talks about import of service, but from related party or from any other establishment outside India. In that case, it will be supply even without consideration. So this part I have explained. Whether import of a service is inter or intra. Again, section 7 says 7.2 for goods and 7.4 for services. It says that import of service will always be interstate supply. Correct? So now let's move to the discussion. Para 4 of the schedule 1, we have discussed that import of the service by a person from a related person or from his other establishment outside India, it will be treated as a supply even if made without consideration. Correct? Section 5, subsection 1, we have already discussed that levy of the IGST on import of service. Then reverse charge. What is the reverse charge? We know that import of service, who are paying the tax? In case of the import of service, who are paying the tax? In case of the import of service, who are paying the tax? Answer is recipient because it is covered under reverse charge. You can read the language. We have already, I hope you have already read that section 5, 9, subsection 1, subsection 2, subsection 3, exactly same. Okay. So the government on the recommendation of the council by notification specify the categories of goods or services, the tax on which shall be paid under RCM by the recipient of the goods or services, and all the provision of this act shall apply to such recipient as if he is the person liable to pay the tax. In import of service, is it RCM? Yes, answer is RCM because it is covered in the 5 subsection 3. Now, 5 subsection 5. Yeah. Now, in the 5 subsection 5, we have covered in the last class. Let me read the provision first and then try to recall some of the points which I have already explained in the e-commerce class. Government on the recommendation of the council by notification. It means this section would be operative only when you know the notification. This section would be operative when only the notification has been issued by the government using the power of the 5 subsection 5. For what? They will specify the category of services. Point to be noted, only services. So in case of the 5 and 5 subsection 5, goods cannot be covered. Okay. The tax on interstate supply. Why inter? Why not intra? Why not intra? Because we are reading the section 5 of IGST. If you read the section 9 subsection 5 of CGST, you will find the word intra. Okay? Which shall be paid by the e-commerce operator. It means the e-commerce operator who is working as a mediator, but they are saying that it shall be paid by the e-commerce operator as if such services are supplied through it, and all the provision of this act shall apply to this ECO as if he is the supplier. So basically they are saying if actual supplier is making the supply of service through ECO, then on this transaction ECO will be liable for paying the taxes. My question is that can you please tell me which category of the services has been notified for this particular 5 subsection 5 or 9 subsection 5, both are same. मेरा बड़ा सिंपल क्वेश्चन है कि कौन सी कैटेगरी ऑफ द सर्विसेज हैज बीन नोटिफाइड एंड व्हाट इज द मीनिंग ऑफ द 5.5? द टैक्स विल बी पेड बाय ई-कॉमर्स ऑपरेटर, नॉट बाय सप्लायर. You have to tell me the services category which has been notified under subsection 5, and on this category of the services, the tax will be paid by the e-commerce operator, not by the supplier. And I have discussed in length. Lot of things we have discussed. Thank you so much, Abdul. Abdul has given the answer that he is giving the PES answer as passenger transportation services like Ola, Uber. Then he's saying food delivery like Zomato, Swiggy, restaurant services. Then small carpenting, plumbing, UC, urban company, and hotel accommodation. Yes. MMT, make my trip, etc. These are services which has been notified, and what is the impact of this particular transaction or this particular provision, that the tax will be paid by ECO who is considered as a deemed supplier. Proviso says that if the deemed supplier, if the e-commerce operator who is a deemed supplier does not have the presence in India, taxable territory means India, then the representative of that e-commerce operator shall be liable to pay the tax. Second proviso, they are saying that assume e-commerce operator does not have the physical presence and also does not have the representative. What to do in that case? Second proviso say such e-commerce operator who is not in India, who is outside India, and who does not have the representative in India, in that case, such e-commerce operator has to appoint one person in the taxable territory for the purpose of paying the tax, and he shall be liable to pay the tax. ये बात repetitive है, and we have discussed something concept of TCS. Can you tell me the e-commerce operator who are considered as deemed supplier in the 5 subsection 5 or 9 subsection 5, क्या TCS सेक्शन 52 का प्रोविजन एप्लीकेबल होगा उन ई-कॉमर्स ऑपरेटर के ऊपर? माय क्वेश्चन इज वेदर TCS provision under section 52 would be applicable on such ECO who are considered as deemed supplier in the 9.5 or the 5.5? Yes or no? Correct? No TCS on these 5 subsection 5 or notified category of the services on which ECO is liable to pay the tax. On that, no TCS. Absolutely correct. 7 subsection 4, we have discussed that 7 subsection 4, it is considered as interstate supply. Now we need to read the section 9. Section 9 says that where the supply is being in the territorial water. Correct? Notwithstanding anything contained in this act, where the location of supplier is in the territorial water and the location, see, where the location of supplier is in the territorial water, then location of such supplier. And where the place of the supply is the territorial water, then the place of the supply shall, for the purpose of this act, be deemed in the coastal state or union territory, जहां पर nearest point of the baseline is located. So if this is the transaction, then what could be the place of the supply or what could be the location of supply? They are saying it would be the coastal state, जहां पे coastal state or UT, जहां पे nearest point of the appropriate baseline is located. Section 13 we have discussed. Now the OIDAR, in short it is called as OIDAR. What is OIDAR? Online Information Database Access Retrieval Services. It is very important. Altogether different concept we will discuss in detail. Okay. Now, first, what is OIDAR? Online Information and Database Access Retrieval Services. Like I have taken the subscription of Netflix. Netflix is nothing but providing the service of OIDAR category. I have taken the service of the Zoom platform, YouTube. These are providing nothing but the OIDAR services. In such case, special provision for payment of tax by the supplier of online information and database access retrieval services, OIDAR. What is the taxability? Section 14, subsection 1 of IGST Act on supply of online information and database access retrieval services by the person. Now, this time the person is outside India. It means in this provision, we are treating that OIDAR is outside India and received by NTOR. Who is the recipient? Now, in short, I will use the word NTOR. क्या मतलब इसका? We will discuss. NTOR means unregistered person. NTOR, non-taxable online recipient. Then it says that liability is shifted to the OIDAR. Let me tell you first, I will explain the basic point with respect to chart. Let's say the company is GoDaddy. Is providing the domain. So you have purchased the domain and for which you have paid the consideration, let's say 149, etc. Now, who will pay the tax? The service is nothing but the OIDAR services. The company is located outside India. Company is located outside India. If they provide the service in India to registered person, if they provide the service in India to the registered person, then this transaction will be covered under reverse charge, meaning thereby this registered person will pay the tax under reverse charge. पहले मुझे कंफर्म करो ये वाला पार्ट क्लियर है? If company OIDAR service provider located outside India providing the service in India to the registered person, then it will be covered under reverse charge and recipient will pay the tax. This point is clear. Very simple point. Now, if the recipient is NTOR, what is the meaning of NTOR? Unregistered person, point number 1, plus registered person only, registered person only for the purpose of section 51, means TDS category में. NTOR means unregistered person, which include the person who is registered solely only for the purpose of TDS category. They are talking about such government who has taken the registration in the GST for TDS compliances. For this provision, they are considered as unregistered person, NTOR. And if the service is being received by NTOR, then as per section 24 clause 11, read with the section 14 subsection 1 of IGST Act. It says that the liability would be shifted to the GoDaddy to take the registration in India. The liability is shifted to the GoDaddy to take the registration in India, and they have to take a mandatory registration, no threshold limit. Section 24 clause 11 says, clause 11. 24 clause 11 says that they have to take mandatory registration and pay the GST under forward charge basis. While GoDaddy or any company, Google, Facebook, every company who is required to take registration because of this category, India has given one centralized location, Bangalore. It would be easy for them to do the compliances, etc. So Bangalore CGST Commissionerate, one commissionerate has been identified for OIDAR company who is located outside India, and they need to take the registration. Why they need to take the registration? Because the recipient is NTOR. Because the recipient is NTOR. एक स्मॉल क्वेश्चन पूछ रहा हूं, जस्ट मैंने एक्सप्लेन किया, इसका क्वेश्चन पूछ रहा हूं. प्लीज रिमेंबर ऑलवेज, गवर्नमेंट who is registered in GST only for TDS purpose. A government who is registered only for TDS purpose, section 51, when they will be considered unregistered? When they will be considered unregistered? Answer is when OIDAR providing the services, OIDAR located outside India providing the services in India to the section 51 government companies, then they will be treated as unregistered. Now, if they will be treated as unregistered, then who will pay the tax? Liability shifted to the OIDAR, and he will pay the tax as forward charge. NTOR means unregistered person. First point. Unregistered person will include the person who has not taken the registration, plus government who is only registered for TDS category. NTOR means unregistered. It means if OIDAR providing the service in India to NTOR means unregistered person, then I can say the liability to pay the tax is shifted to the OIDAR company. That company have to take registration in India and pay the GST under forward charge. But NTOR का मतलब क्या है? Only unregistered? नहीं सर, एक registered person भी NTOR माना जाता है. कौन सा? गवर्नमेंट जिसने TDS कैटेगरी में GST में रजिस्ट्रेशन लिया है. भाई अगर मैं GST में रजिस्टर्ड हूं, चाहे कोई सी भी कैटेगरी हो, चाहे रजिस्टर्ड हो, TCS हो, TDS हो, ISD हो, कैजुअल टैक्सेबल पर्सन हो, नॉन रेसिडेंट पर्सन हो, इन एनी कैटेगरी यू टेक रजिस्ट्रेशन, you will be treated as registered person only. But at one place in the NTOR definition, they are saying it will include the government who has taken the registration only for the purpose of TDS. Is that clear to everyone? Only government is covered. Only government plus every unregistered person. Suppose you are a student. Namrata, let's say you have purchased one domain from the GoDaddy. Are you registered in the GST? Answer would be no. Then you are NTOR. Let's say I am Delhi government, but I am registered in the GST only for section 51. I am also NTOR. Why or what is the use of NTOR? If we receive the service from the OIDAR located out of India, then is transaction per tax OIDAR dega, main nahi. Is that clear? Viraj and everyone, Namrata, Prerna, everyone. मोहम्मद ने कंफर्म कर दिया, ग्रेट. अगर नहीं क्लियर है किसी भी पार्टिसिपेंट को, प्लीज विदाउट हेजिटेशन आप रिपीट करने के लिए बोलना, मुझे कोई दिक्कत नहीं है. आई ओनली गवर्नमेंट, ये बढ़िया क्वेश्चन है. नाउ विल डिस्कस, डेफिनेटली विल डिस्कस, नो डाउट. Because see, first let me read the definition. Means any unregistered person receiving the online information database access retrieval services located in the taxable territory. Any unregistered person. Now they are saying that government who is registered but only for the purpose of TDS, they will also be considered as unregistered. Why? Why? Very nice question. You tell me, Namrata, you tell me, if OIDAR company provide the service to the registered person, who will pay the tax? If OIDAR company provide the service to the registered person in India, who will pay the tax? The answer is registered person under RCM category, right? Answer is registered person under RCM category. Now, if the government who is registered, then obviously if that particular provision explanation is not being added, that government registered for the purpose of TDS is considered as unregistered. अगर ये नहीं होता, suppose ये नहीं होता, इसका मतलब क्या होता? Government will be treated as registered person only. Government, if it is only registered for the purpose of TDS category, will be treated as registered. He has to pay the tax under RCM. Yes or no? Yes or no? यहां तक क्लियर है? That government has to pay the tax under reverse charge. Government has to pay the tax under reverse charge. तो यहां पे क्या प्रॉब्लम है? यहां पे भी प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, प्रॉब्लम अब तीसरी है. Now the problem is next. Because the government who is registered for the purpose of TDS category, they file the GST R7 only. If they need to pay the tax under RCM, they have to take the registration under regular category also. And they will file the 3B and will pay the tax under RCM. Problem ये है. Problem government को tax देना ये problem नहीं है. The problem is because government registered for the purpose of TDS, they are only filing GST R7. TDS return say. But if the RCM liability would be shifted on them, then they have to take one more category of registration. And वो कौन सा कैटेगरी होगा? रेगुलर, जिसमें वो 3B फाइल करेंगे जस्ट बिकॉज रिवर्स चार्ज के कारण, जस्ट बिकॉज दे नीड टू पे द टैक्स इन द रिवर्स चार्ज. दिस विल इंक्रीज द कंप्लायंस. This will increase unnecessary registration category to the government. So they are saying if government has received the service, they will be considered as URP. So tax का liability किस पे shift हो जाएगा? OIDAR पे. That's it. Is that clear? Entire chapter, entire point is clear. Very nice question. And सभी से मेरा मोहम्मद अब्दुल, प्रेरणा, विराज, ये पॉइंट क्लियर हो गया ना कि गवर्नमेंट को क्यों अनरजिस्टर्ड माना? बढ़िया क्वेश्चन था. ठीक है. On supply of OIDAR, retrieval access retrieval services by any person located in the non-taxable territory and received by the NTOR, the supply of service located in non-taxable territory, supplier of services, OIDAR, GoDaddy, USA, shall be the person who is liable for paying the IGST. Provided that in case of the supply of OIDAR by any person located in the non-taxable territory received by the non-taxable online recipient. मैं वापस एक बार रीड करता हूं, एक मिनट रुकिएगा. Proviso says that in case of the supply of the OIDAR by any person located in the non-taxable territory and received by the non-taxable online recipient, perfect, an intermediary located in the non-taxable territory who arrange or facilitate the such service shall be deemed to be the recipient of such service from the supplier of the service located in the non-taxable territory and supplying the service to the NTOR except when such intermediary satisfy the following condition. तो क्या बोल रहे हैं वो? They are saying if this OIDAR who is located out of India, they are providing the service to NTOR and through an intermediary who is arranging, facilitating, etc. They are saying that this intermediary would be considered as recipient. They are recipient. These intermediaries are considered as recipient, except if following conditions are satisfied. Let's read the condition. Invoice or customer bill or receipt issued or made available. Invoice or customer bill. Sorry. Invoice or customer bill or receipt issued or made available by such intermediary taking part in the supply clearly identify the service in question and its supplier in the non-taxable territory. मैं रिपीट करता हूं, एक सेकेंड, वापस थोड़ा कुछ कंफ्यूजन है. लेट मी अगेन गो बैक. Proviso says that in case supply of OIDAR by outside India received by non-taxable online recipient and intermediary, they are saying it is an intermediary which view is also located in the non-taxable territory. Intermediary is also located in the non-taxable territory. Now, who is arranging or facilitating the supply of the service shall be deemed to be the recipient of such service from the non-taxable territory, OIDAR non-taxable territory, and supplying such service to the non-taxable online recipient except when such intermediary satisfied the following condition. It means the invoice or the customer bill issued or made available by such intermediary taking part in the supply clearly identify the service in question and its supplier in the non-taxable territory. The intermediary involved in the supply does not authorize the charge to the customer or take part in its charge, which is that intermediary neither collect or process payment in any manner or is responsible for the payment between non-taxable online recipient and supplier of that service. We'll discuss in detail in analysis part this particular provision. The intermediary involved in the supply does not authorize delivery and the general terms and conditions are not set by the intermediary involved in the supply. What is the impact? We will discuss. We will go to the analysis part. Let me complete 14.2 and then we will go to the analysis only for the purpose of section 14. Supplier of OIDAR referred to in subsection 1 shall for payment of IGST take a single registration. Why single registration? As I told you that Bangalore ka location has been specified for them. Bangalore specified for them because they are saying simplified registration scheme. क्योंकि अब अगर बाहर की कंपनी है, if they have to take registration in every state, let's say, then it will be the problematic for them. It would be the problematic for them because we know that every assessment, SGST officer, CGST officer. So to facilitate or to give the support, they have identified one commissionerate in the Bangalore that they have given identified for taking all the OIDAR company located outside India, providing the service in India to NTOR. Provided that any person located in the taxable territory representing such supplier for any purpose, then shall get registered and pay the IGST on behalf of the supplier. If does not have the physical presence and does not have the representative, then he has to appoint the person. That the same provision we have discussed in the subsection 5 of IGST Act. Still, we are not clear about the proviso to 14 subsection 1. For that, I am going to the analysis part. यहाँ तक कोई क्वेश्चन है बताएं. Is there any question till now? Please tell me. हाँ, ये वाला पार्ट मैं वापस समझाऊंगा ना. कौन सा वाला पार्ट ऊपर से गया? बाकी तो पार्ट सेम है ना. 14 सबसेक्शन 2 तो सेम ही है ना. 14.2 क्लियर है, 14.1 क्लियर है. ओनली 14.1 का प्रोवाइजो वी नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड अगेन. और स्किप करना है 14.1 एक बार प्रोवाइजो स्किप करना है. वी कैन स्किप एंड वी कैन डिस्कस इन द नेक्स्ट क्लास ऑल्सो. ये बड़ा इंपॉर्टेंट पार्ट है. लेट मी टेक सम मोर टाइम. 14.1 का प्रोवाइजो आई विल एक्सप्लेन आइदर टुडे और आई विल एक्सप्लेन इन द नेक्स्ट क्लास. बट बिफोर दैट अगेन अब थोड़ा हल्का हल्का प्रोविजन डिस्कस करते हैं. थोड़ा लाइट प्रोविजन डिस्कस करते हैं. नाउ do one thing. हाँ, प्रोवाइजो मैं समझा दूंगा. रेस्ट बी श्योर. थोड़ा सा भी वी हैव डिस्कस्ड अ लॉट ऑफ थिंग, सो प्रोबेबली दैट रीजन नो प्रॉब्लम. आई विल एक्सप्लेन अगेन आइदर टुडे और द नेक्स्ट क्लास. बट बिफोर दैट आई एम एक्सप्लेनिंग द चार्ट that is there in the study material, but in the different way. My question is, देखो, export of service, how many conditions are there? Just quickly tell me. Export of the service, how many conditions are there? Export of service, supply should be India. Recipient should be outside India. Correct? Place of the supply should be outside India. and amount should be in the foreign currency, or if RBI permitted, then INR. Or relation should not be the not distinct person. Okay. And here I can say import of the service, the supply should be outside India, customer should be, recipient should be in India, and place of the supply should be India. Then it is import of service. Not applicable and not applicable. Now, I'll give you some example. Wherein I will discuss LOS, I will discuss LOR, I will discuss POS. I will assume in all the situation that condition 4 and 5 is satisfied. ध्यान से समझिएगा ये केस स्टडी को. What I'm doing, I will plot some example. You have to tell me, is it export of the service? Is it import of the service? Or is it out of GST? Is it out of GST? Or is it domestic transaction? What is the meaning of domestic transaction and what is the meaning of out of GST? See, this part, the first 2 points are related to this chapter, but balance 2 points I am adding to give the overall entire picture of the transaction of export import. मैं रिपीट करता हूं, ये जो 2 पार्ट है ये आपके अभी जो मैं केस स्टडी अभी जो मैं आपको बता रहा था ये वाला, लेट मी शो यू दैट पर्टिकुलर पेज, ये वाला पार्ट ऑलरेडी जो मैं कवर करवा रहा हूं यहां तक है, फर्स्ट 2 पॉइंट, बट आई एम एडिंग 2 मोर पॉइंट. आई एम एडिंग 2 मोर पॉइंट. व्हाट इज द आउट ऑफ जीएसटी? आउट ऑफ जीएसटी में अगर लोकेशन ऑफ सप्लायर, अगर लोकेशन ऑफ सप्लायर एंड प्लेस ऑफ द सप्लाई दोनों आउटसाइड इंडिया है, अगर लोकेशन ऑफ सप्लायर एंड प्लेस ऑफ द सप्लाई आउटसाइड इंडिया है तो वो ट्रांजेक्शन आउट ऑफ जीएसटी चला जाएगा. मुझे पहले कंफर्म करें, इज दैट पॉइंट क्लियर? एग्जांपल दूं, शुड आई गिव वन एग्जांपल? लेट्स से you are going out of India and staying in one hotel of London. What is the location of supplier? London hotel owner. What is the place of the supply? That property. Because supplier and POS both are outside India. So what to do the Indian GST? Nothing to do Indian GST, right? Correct. So that particular transaction would not come into the ambit of Indian GST. So I'm using the word out of GST. एक बार कंफर्म करना, ये वाला पार्ट क्लियर है ना, आउट ऑफ जीएसटी जो मैंने हाईलाइट किया यहां पर. बड़ा सिंपल पार्ट है, एक बार जस्ट क्विकली कंफर्म कर दो मुझे. नाउ व्हाट इज द डोमेस्टिक ट्रांजैक्शन? इन द डोमेस्टिक ट्रांजैक्शन आई विल से दैट सप्लायर इज इन इंडिया, कस्टमर इज आउटसाइड इंडिया एंड प्लेस ऑफ द सप्लाई इज इंडिया. दैट इज डोमेस्टिक ट्रांजैक्शन. कैसा? लेट्स टेक वन एग्जांपल. लेट्स टेक वन एग्जांपल. मिस्टर ए इज फ्रॉम दिल्ली. Mr. is from Delhi. He has raised the invoice to Mr. B. He has raised the invoice to Mr. B, let's say for goods. Or let's say for services. We are talking about services only right now. But place of the supply, according to section 13, is India. Mr. A is interior decorator. Let's say Mr. A is interior decorator. He is providing the interior decoration service to the one property located in India. He is located in Delhi. Let's say property is also located in Delhi. And the bill is being raised to the Mr. B. Amount is coming in the foreign currency. क्या होगा ये ट्रांजेक्शन? विल इट बी एक्सपोर्ट, विल इट बी इंपोर्ट, विल इट बी आउट ऑफ जीएसटी, विल इट बी डोमेस्टिक? सो वी हैव टू चेक ऑल द कंडीशन, वेदर सप्लायर इज इन इंडिया, यस, कंडीशन सेटिस्फाइड. कस्टमर इज आउटसाइड इंडिया, यस, कंडीशन सेटिस्फाइड. अमाउंट इज कमिंग इन द फॉरेन करेंसी, यस, कंडीशन सेटिस्फाइड. आर दे रिलेटेड? नो, दे आर नॉट रिलेटेड, कंडीशन सेटिस्फाइड. But because place of the supply should be outside India, because the place of the supply should be outside India, therefore, The condition not satisfied and it is not export. Let me repeat this example once again. I am saying Mr. A is of Delhi. He is providing the services to Mr. B of USA. The nature of service is interior decoration service at Delhi property. Now, because A providing the service related to immovable property, according to section 13, subsection 4, 13.3 place of the supply related to the performance, 13.4 immovable, 13.5 event. So according to 13.4, the place of the supply is Delhi. Correct? B is giving the amount in the foreign currency. Let's check whether it is export. Condition with respect to location of supplier satisfied because A is from Delhi. Condition with respect to recipient is satisfied because he is from USA. Condition with respect to amount is satisfied. Condition with respect to relation is satisfied. But because place of the supply is not outside India, place of the supply is not outside India, therefore the transaction will not be export. Is that clear? Yahan tak clear hai? सो ऐसा करते हैं, इसको हटाते हैं एक बार फॉर द टाइमिंग, इस डिस्कशन से इसको हटा देते हैं. ठीक है, दैट्स इट. केस 1, supplier is in India, recipient is India, place of the supply is outside India, amount let's say foreign currency. Will it be export? Will it be export or will it be import? क्या ये एक्सपोर्ट है या क्या ये इंपोर्ट है? Will it be export? Oh my god, it become tough in initial stage. The question become tough, but मैं आपको explain कर दूंगा. I'll take the example also. I will explain. क्या ये export है? First tell me, is it export? First tell me, is it export? First tell me, is it export? Is it export? Let's check the condition. For export, the supply should be India, satisfied. Recipient should be India, not satisfied because it should be outside India. Place of the supply outside India, satisfied. Amount satisfied, satisfied. It is not export because condition related to LO are not satisfied. But whether it is import, let's check. Import में supplier कहां पे होना चाहिए? Supply should be outside India. अरे ये तो इंडिया का है. And place of the supply should be India. Place of the supply outside India. So it is not import also. It is not export. It is not import. It is not export. It is not import. It means because you have to check every condition, whether it is satisfied. If not, then it means it is not export or it is not import. It is like domestic transaction. Chargeable to CGST, SGST, chargeable to IGST, but it is not export. ये एक बात क्लियर हुई भाई. अगर सप्लायर इंडिया में है तो ही विल चार्ज जीएसटी. प्लेस ऑफ द सप्लाई आउटसाइड इंडिया, ऑब्वियसली इट विल बी आईजीएसटी. क्या ये एक्सपोर्ट है? आंसर इज नो. क्या ये इंपोर्ट है? आंसर इज नो. देन क्या ये सिंपल डोमेस्टिक ट्रांजेक्शन हो गया? नो का मतलब क्या? क्लियर नहीं है ऐसा? चलो ठीक है. इस केस को है ना मैं इसको ना मैं शिफ्ट करता हूं नीचे. ठीक है, इसको हम वापस रिपीट करेंगे. आई विल गिव वन एग्जांपल. फर्स्ट टेल मी, इफ द सप्लायर इज इन इंडिया एंड प्लेस ऑफ द सप्लाई कस्टमर इज आउटसाइड इंडिया. If the supplier is in India, customer is outside India, and the place of the supply is India, is it export? Is it export? Yes or no? क्या ये export है, क्या ये import है? You have to tell me whether it is export or whether it is import. You have to tell me whether it is export, whether it is import. Whether it is export, whether it is import. Requesting everyone to please participate. Requesting everyone please participate. Import के लिए सप्लायर कहां होना चाहिए? विराज इंपोर्ट के लिए सप्लायर कहां पे होना चाहिए? वेराज इंपोर्ट के लिए सप्लायर कहां पे होना चाहिए? आउटसाइड इंडिया. मेरे एग्जांपल में सप्लायर कहां पर है? क्या ये इंपोर्ट है? नो. क्या ये एक्सपोर्ट है? एक्सपोर्ट के केस में प्लेस ऑफ द सप्लाई कहां होना चाहिए? एक्सपोर्ट के केस में प्लेस ऑफ सप्लाई कहां होना चाहिए? आउटसाइड इंडिया. इट इज नथिंग. नाइदर एक्सपोर्ट नॉर इंपोर्ट. सो it become Indian transaction. It become Indian transaction. I can say it become domestic transaction. So therefore the benefit of the export or import are not available on this transaction. Tax need to be paid. Tax need to be paid. अच्छा, क्या होगा अगर एक्सपोर्ट नहीं होगा और अगर डोमेस्टिक बन जाएगा? What is the loss? What is the loss if the transaction is become domestic transaction, not export? What is the loss if transaction is not export but become domestic transaction? What is the loss? Sir, no refund. No refund. So यहां पे क्या आंसर हुआ? It is neither export nor import. It is a normal or regular transaction in which GST need to be paid. यहां तक क्लियर है? इज इट क्लियर टिल नाउ? इस एग्जांपल तक क्लियर है ना? सेकंड केस, supplier is outside India, recipient is in India, and place of the supply is India. Is it export? Is it import? Is it out of GST or is it domestic? केस टू में बताइए, क्या ये एक्सपोर्ट है, क्या ये इंपोर्ट है, क्या ये आउट ऑफ जीएसटी है, क्या ये नॉर्मल है? केस टू में आउटसाइड इंडिया, ओके. लोकेशन ऑफ रिसिपिएंट इंडिया, ओके. प्लेस ऑफ द सप्लाई इंडिया. All the conditions are satisfied, therefore it is import. All the conditions are satisfied, therefore it is import. केस थ्री में सप्लायर इंडिया में है, कस्टमर आउटसाइड इंडिया, प्लेस ऑफ द सप्लाई आउटसाइड इंडिया, amount foreign currency, no relation. Then will it be export? Will it be import? Will it be domestic? Or will it be out of GST? The case 3, India, supplier in India, customer outside India, place of the supply outside India, foreign currency में पैसा आ रहा है, no relation. Is it export, import, out of GST or domestic? Normal transaction. नहीं नहीं, फिफ्थ कंडीशन satisfied. No relation. They are not related party. They are not related party, sir. Whereas they are not related party. So fifth condition is satisfied. They are not distinct person. So it is export. Let's take same example. Let's take same example. But let's take same example. ठीक है. But I'm changing. Recipient is in India. First tell me, क्या ये ट्रांजेक्शन एक्सपोर्ट होगा? First tell me, just give me line by line answer. Will this transaction be export? Will this transaction be export? What I have changed? I have changed only India. I have changed the recipient का location from outside India to India. क्या ये एक्सपोर्ट होगा? First tell me, क्या ये एक्सपोर्ट होगा? Will it be export now? Simply tell me, will it be export now? Answer is no. It cannot be export because the condition with respect to recipient are not satisfied. Perfect. क्या ये import होगा? Will it be import? Will it be import? क्या ये import हो सकता है क्या? Will it be import? Will it be import? Just simple give me the answer. Will it be import? Again, answer is no. It import नहीं होगा क्यों? Condition with respect to supply not satisfied. Condition with respect to place of the supply not satisfied. Only satisfied the recipient condition. It is not import. आउट ऑफ जीएसटी के लिए क्या चाहिए? सप्लायर एंड प्लेस ऑफ द सप्लाई दोनों इंडिया के बाहर चाहिए. आउट ऑफ जीएसटी के लिए क्या चाहिए? सप्लायर एंड पीओएस बोथ आउटसाइड इंडिया. क्या ये आउट ऑफ जीएसटी चला जाएगा? क्या ये ट्रांजेक्शन आउट ऑफ जीएसटी होगा? फॉर आउट ऑफ जीएसटी सप्लायर एंड पीओएस बोथ शुड बी आउट ऑफ इंडिया. क्या ये आउट ऑफ जीएसटी होगा ट्रांजेक्शन? नो, एज एलओएस इज इन इंडिया, राइट. सप्लायर इंडिया में, इसलिए आउट ऑफ जीएसटी भी नहीं हो सकता. सो क्या हुआ? ये ट्रांजेक्शन बन गया नॉर्मल ट्रांजेक्शन इन विच जीएसटी विल बी पेबल. सो दिस इंडियन पार्टी विल रेज द टैक्स इनवॉइस बाय चार्जिंग आईजीएसटी and for which no refund, no subsidy, no benefit will be granted. Is this clear? Fourth one is clear. चौथा वाला केस क्लियर हुआ क्या? फोर्थ केस इज क्लियर क्या? लास्ट केस 4 is clear. Just tell me, case 4 is clear. Just tell me, case 4 is clear. Condition 1, condition 1 is no import. ठीक है. ठीक है. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Requesting everyone to confirm that is it clear ना? Case 4 is clear ना? ठीक है. Now go to the study material. Institute का material. Let's solve this case study. Supplier is in London. Customer is recipient is in Delhi. Place of the supply is Delhi. Is it export or import, or is it export or is it import or nothing? क्या ये एक्सपोर्ट है, क्या ये इंपोर्ट है? कुछ भी नहीं है. Is it export, is it import? Is it export, is it import, or nothing? Import, right. Now, in the second case, supplier is in London, recipient is in Paris, and place of the supply is Paris. Export, import, is it export or is it import? Or is it a normal transaction or out of GST? See, normal and out of GST, I have decided at my own to clarify the concept. It is not that you will write in the exam. Depending upon the question, you have to give the answer. They are asking whether it is import or service or not. So, whether this transaction is import or service or not. Whether this transaction is import or service or not. क्या ये import है क्या? Second one. It is first, and what about the second? Is it import? Second is import. बिल्कुल. It is not import, it is not export, it is out of GST because supplier and place of supply both are बाहर है. Now, the third case number third. Supplier is in Delhi, place of the customer is in Paris, and place of the supply is Delhi. Is it import? Is it export? Or out of GST or normal transaction? It becomes normal transaction. Correct. And I think last. Now, please tell me, in this case, will I apply section 12 to determine the POS, or will I apply section 13 to determine the POS? क्वेश्चन नंबर 3 में मेरा एक और क्वेरी है आपसे. आई एम आस्किंग वन मोर पॉइंट दैट प्लीज टेल मी, विल आई अप्लाई सेक्शन 13 or will apply section 12 to determine the POS? Will I apply section 13 or will I apply section 12 to determine the POS? Yes, right. Section, absolutely correct. 1(3), because one party is in India, one party outside India. What about the this question? Is it export? Is it import? Is it out of GST, or is it question number 4? Viraj, section 13, Namrata 13, Mohammad Abdul 13. Right. So section 13 would be applied because both one party is in India, one party outside India. Okay. So last case 4, is it export, is it import, is it out of GST, or is it normal transaction? ठीक है बेटा. ठीक है. So let's move further. So therefore, regarding the import of service, we can say that where the location of supplier and is outside India and the location of recipient and place of the supply both are in India. then the transaction will be qualify as import of service. Check. It says that India is the sum of the territory of its state, and it also includes the territorial water and exclusive economic zone. This is an extended definition of India over and above the area denoted by the expression in the Article 1 of the Constitution and is enabled by the right of the nation under the United Nations. So the definition of India has been extended in GST. Convention on the Law of the Seas, the definition enable the taxation of services received from outside India into area that is outside India as per the Constitution, but within. See, if you refer the definition of India as per the Constitution, it does not include that like 200 nautical miles, that EEZ. But for the purpose of taxation, they have extended India till EEZ, exclusive economic zone. So within 200 nautical mile limit of the exclusive economic zone, the place of the supply is to be determined according to section 13. Section 13 provide for place of the supply wherein the LOS or LOR is outside India, or it means any one party is outside India and any one party is in India. If the place of the supply is in the territorial water, the place of the supply is deemed to be the coastal state or union territory where the nearest point of the appropriate baseline is located, that we have discussed in the section 9. Now, the state tax component of IGST accrue to the coastal state. In addition to the place of the supply being in India and the provider of the service being located outside India, the location of recipient of the service must be in India for the transaction to qualify as import of service. This means that service should be received or fixed establishment in India in the absence usual place. That is okay. That is the definition of recipient. Person liable to pay the tax that we have discussed. OIDAR के केस में कौन होगा? हाँ, you need read. This is the last discussion for today class, and then we will move to the quick round of the question answer. Then we will move to the quick round of the question answer. ठीक है? ये last. नहीं विराज लास्ट क्वेश्चन में क्या था? सप्लायर एंड प्लेस ऑफ सप्लाई बोथ आर आउट ऑफ इंडिया. सप्लायर एंड प्लेस ऑफ द सप्लाई बोथ आर आउट ऑफ इंडिया. देन हमने क्या पढ़ा था कि अगर दोनों इंडिया के बाहर हो, कौन? सप्लायर एंड पीओएस. आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट सप्लायर एंड पीओएस. आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट सप्लायर एंड पीओएस. सप्लायर इज आउटसाइड इंडिया, पीओएस इज आउटसाइड इंडिया. सो द क्वेश्चन इज द ट्रांजेक्शन वुड बी आउट ऑफ जीएसटी. ठीक है ना? लास्ट पार्ट हम डिस्कशन करते हैं. See, please note one thing. I have not touched upon section 14 subsection 1 का प्रोवाइजो. हाँ, स्टडी मटेरियल का मैंने बताया था सर. Viraz, I have given the answer of study material only. I have opened my Excel sheet. That is okay, but I have linked the question of study material. बिकॉज पेरिस था ना, आउट ऑफ इंडिया था ना. लास्ट क्वेश्चन क्या था? लंदन में था सप्लायर एंड प्लेस ऑफ द सप्लाई लंदन में थी. तो बिकॉज बोथ आर आउटसाइड इंडिया, सो देयरफॉर इट इज आउट ऑफ जीएसटी. See, in case of import of service, the recipient of imported service who is located in India is the person who has to pay the tax under reverse charge. So this is very important. Let me understand. See, if it is import of service, let's say, and recipient is a registered person, then no problem. Your answer will be that he will pay the tax under reverse charge. Perfectly okay, no problem. My question is, Let's say if the recipient is unregistered person, then what will happen? It is normal import of service. I am not talking about OIDAR. Let's say specifically I am saying other than OIDAR. Very important question. It's very tricky question. बहुत important question है. Give me the answer that if this service is being received by unregistered, तो क्या होगा? And let's assume it is not exempted. It is not exempted anywhere in the GST. बहुत परमुटेशन कॉम्बिनेशन बना दिया मैंने because it is very tricky and very important question. Who will take the registration? Mohammed, who will take the registration? Supplier or recipient? Service is import. It means, let's say location of supplier is London. Let's say location of recipient is Delhi. And place of the supply is also Delhi. So this is the question. So you mean to say that London wala party has to take an RTP registration? नहीं, कुछ और. Anything else? Tell me one more thing. What is the non-resident taxable person? The non-resident taxable person means he is coming to India. He is coming to India and then he is making the taxable supply. What is the non-resident taxable person category? He is coming to India and then making the taxable supply. Then he has to take registration under NRTP category, and that is also valid for 90 days. It means his purpose is only for 90 days. यहां पे वो इंडिया में थोड़ी आ रहा है. मेरे इस एग्जांपल में इज नॉट कमिंग टू इंडिया. It is not coming to India and not making the taxable supply. Will the tax be paid by the supplier? Will the tax be paid by the supplier? Understanding को ठीक कीजिए. Please see carefully. Please see carefully this discussion. Might be it has or it creates a lot of confusion in your mind. Tell me one more thing, whether RCM is mandatory category of registration or not. Whether RCM is mandatory category of registration under section 24 or not. So again asking the same question. In this case, what would be, do you think, what would be the right answer? In this case, what do you think? What is the right answer? Option number 1, supplier pay the tax under forward charge basis, or unregistered person take the registration and then pay the tax under RCM. कौन सा केस आपको ठीक लगता है? जस्ट आस्किंग. We'll spend the time on this only, है ना? We'll spend the time on this only. I will not move any further. Will not move. I was thinking to explain the Mohit Minnal wala judgment, but will not move. What do you think? Supplier under forward charge or recipient under RCM? Abdul, I am highlighting one part. Still your answer would say, Mohammed Abdul, I am highlighting one part. Still your answer remains same. Just ask it. What about Prerna, Namrata, Viraj? क्या आंसर होगा? Point number 1 or point number 2? No, fine. Now try to understand. You all are doing one mistake. Let me explain. If service location of supplier is outside India, if the location of supplier is outside India and providing the service in India to unregistered person, if the supplier is located outside India and providing the service in India to unregistered person, then check whether service ka nature is OIDA. If the service is OIDA, then section 14 subsection 1 of IGST Act create the liability to pay the tax under forward charge basis on supplier. Be careful. Be careful that liability on the supplier would be shifted when the service ka nature is OIDA. Liability would be shifted to the supplier only when the service ka category is OIDAR. If it is other than OIDAR, section 14 will fail. Section 14 will fail. And in the GST, there is no provision who will shift the liability under forward charge on supplier. In the GST, under IGST Act, there is no provision which will create the liability on the supplier. It means it will be the import of the service. Recipient has to pay the tax under RCM if it is not exempted, if it is business purpose. Question पूछे, counter question. Judgment दूसरे मैटर का नम्रता. It will take some time. We will explain in the next class. It is not related to this. It is not related to this. It is again one more category. So by which the confusion would be more. So let me explain this category only and conclude the class at this stage. The judgment is with respect to the ocean freight. That we will discuss in the next class. Whereas RCM लग जाएगा. Whereas it will be under RCM. Whereas it will be under RCM. So the Delhi who is making the payment to that surgeon has to pay the tax under RCM if it is registered, or if it is, or you are saying that if it is personal purpose, then service itself would be exempted. See, service itself would be exempted. See, please note one thing. Might be you are thinking that in that case, every URP has to take mandatory registration. Might be you are thinking that every URP has to take mandatory registration to pay the tax under RCM. Is this case? No. It is not the case. Because in the exemption chapter, you might have touched upon this, that service received from outside India to India. Service received from outside. See, very beautifully, one more thing, very beautiful. If you read the exemption, serial number 10, service provided from non-taxable territory. Non-taxable territory for personal purpose, service itself would be exempted. And this exemption is not covered on OIDAR. Why it is not covered on OIDAR? Because in case of the OIDAR, liability shifted to the supplier. तब exemption कहां पे दी है? Exemption दिया है service provider outside India, recipient in India, he is taking the personal purpose. Transaction exempt हो गया. If it is taking for the business purpose, transaction taxable, RCM mandatory registration. If it is OIDAR, then if the recipient is unregistered, liability would be shifted to the foreign company. मुझे कंफर्म करो यार, क्लियर हुआ या नहीं हुआ? नहीं हुआ क्लियर ना? मुझे ऐसा लग रहा है इट इज नॉट क्लियर. Very nice discussion. But tell me, मोहम्मद, नम्रता, विराज, प्रेरणा, एवरीवन, क्या ये डिस्कशन क्लियर हुआ क्या? I'm ready to explain once again. Yeah. I'm ready to explain once again if it is not clear. मैं एक बार वापस एक्सप्लेन करता हूं. आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट अदर देन ओइडार. मैं एक बार और डिस्कशन करता हूं. अदर देन ओइडार, ठीक है. एंड प्रोवाइडर सप्लायर कहां पे, लोकेशन ऑफ सप्लायर क्या है, लोकेशन ऑफ सप्लायर यूके है, ठीक है. रिसिपिएंट अगर रजिस्टर्ड है, क्वेश्चन खत्म, नो प्रॉब्लम, इट विल पे द टैक्स अंडर आरसी. इफ द recipient is unregistered, then divide in two parts. Is it service taken for the personal purpose? अगर yes है तो आंसर exempted है, service itself would be exempted. If it is business purpose, then it will be taxable. Then the question will be, who will pay the tax? Supplier can't pay the tax because in the GST there is section 14 who will create the liability on the supplier only in case of OIDAR. See, liability is on supplier only OIDAR. Liability on supplier only under OIDAR. Is it OIDAR? No, it is not OIDAR. Other than OIDAR, it means in that case, it will be under RCM, mandatory registration, and the unregistered person who has taken that service for business purpose has to pay the tax under RCM. Now let's say same thing we are talking about OIDAR. If it is OIDAR, location of supplier is UK and this time service is OIDAR. If it is given to registered person, same answer na, it will be RCM, no problem. Now this time service is given to unregistered person. Personal purpose and business purpose. In both the cases, by virtue of section 14 subsection 1, it will always be under forward charge mechanism. Supplier pay the tax under forward charge. So this is also not exempted, because if you see the exemption, they are saying exemption will not apply in case of OIDAR, because it is OIDAR, so no exemption. No exemption. So if recipient is unregistered, whether it is personal purpose or business purpose, in both the cases, by virtue of section 14(1), supplier will pay the tax under forward charge. Kirti, I hope your question is clear. And Namrata, Prerna, Mohammad Abdul and Viraj, एक बार और confirm करो. I have tried to re-explain in different manner. I have tried to re-explain in the different manner both the category. Is it crystal clear or still you have the doubt? Is it clear or still you have the doubt? Clear. So fine. I request everyone to read the definition part. मतलब आप सब लोग है ना, एक बार डेफिनेशन जरूर रीड कर लेना. स्पेशली ओइडार किसको कहते हैं, ऑनलाइन इंफॉर्मेशन डेटाबेस एक्सेस रिट्रीवल क्या चीज है. सो काइंडली रीड दैट डेफिनेशन. व्हाट इज द ओइडार? What is OIDAR? Location Online Information Database Access Retrieval. So means service whose delivery is mediated by information technology over the internet or electronic network, which is not possible to ensure in the absence of IT. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you crystal clear के लिए. एंड जैसे एडवर्टाइजमेंट ओवर द इंटरनेट हो गया, लाइक जैसे फेसबुक पे एडवर्टाइजमेंट देते हैं. क्लाउड सर्विस, जैसे जीमेल का अगर मैं क्लाउड यूज करता हूँ, दैट इज द क्लाउड सर्विसेज. ई बुक, मूवी, म्यूजिक, सॉफ्टवेयर, we have given the example. Providing data or information or online supply the digital content like movie, Netflix वाला जैसे मैंने example दिया था. Digital data storage, online gaming, etc. All these are example of OIDAR. ठीक है, Online Information Database Access Retrieval Services. So by this today class we have the 5-6 minutes. Let me ask couple of question. अभी भी काफी पार्ट बाकी है. वी विल डिस्कस इन द नेक्स्ट क्लास. but let me cover certain question. Chart made it easy. Thank you. Simple OIDAR is simply OIDAR is always taxable, correct? And that will be the forward charge or RCM if registered. Correct, great. So let's discuss for 5-6 minutes. Quickly tell me that in case of the import of service, is there any condition which relate to the realization? It should be amount in the foreign currency or INR. Is there any condition associated in case of import of service? Answer is no. Next condition, the next question, that import of service is intra or inter? Import of service is interstate supply or intrastate supply? Import of service is intrastate or interstate? The right answer is inter. Schedule 3 require the reversal of ITC or not? Whether Schedule 3 require the reversal of ITC or not? We know that in case of the Schedule 3, we are not required to pay the GST. So my question is whether Schedule 3 require the reversal or not? My question is whether Schedule 3 require the reversal or not. Answer is normally not required except para 5 and para 8A. Para 5, sale of land, and para 8A, custom bonded goods stored in the bonded warehouse, and then you have supplied before filing the bill of entry for home consumptions. Correct. Next question is whether third country shipment, whether third country shipment is chargeable to GST. Whether third country shipment is chargeable to GST. Whether third country shipment is chargeable to GST. विराज मेरा क्वेश्चन है शेड्यूल 3 के कारण क्या इंटरेस्ट के कारण आईटीसी रिवर्स करना है. इज इट रिक्वायर द रिवर्सल ऑफ आईटीसी बिकॉज ऑफ द शेड्यूल 3? In the ITC chapter, we have discussed 17 subsection 3, which talks about schedule 3 is not exempt supply and therefore no requirement of reversal. Okay. Point number 1. Point number 2, that schedule 3 ka 2 entry, para 5 and para 8A will be considered as exempt and require the reversal. So this is my question. So I can say out of the entire schedule 3, only 2 entry, that is para 5 and para 8A is para 5 and para 8A will require the reversal, otherwise no requirement of reversal. So whether what was my question? Third country shipment was supply taxable or not? The answer is not taxable. Next question, and probably it is last question for the day. Question is in case of import of service, if there is no consideration, listen question carefully, it is very tricky question. In case of the import of service, when there is no consideration, when it will be supplied? In case of the import of service made without consideration. So my question is, when it will be supplied? Will it always be supply? Will it always no supply? or it will be supply subject to certain condition? You give the answer. Question is clear? Let me repeat once again. My question is कि import of service made without consideration, will it be supply? One, no, it is not supply at all. Yes, it is always supply. Third, it could be the supply depending upon some conditions. मोहम्मद एक पॉइंट और ऐड करो यार. आप करेक्ट आंसर देते हो इसलिए आप लोगों से एक्सपेक्टेशन थोड़ी बढ़ जाती है मेरी. फॉर फ्रॉम एवरीवन, नम्रता, विराज, कीर्ति, अब्दुल, प्रेरणा, एवरीवन. सो अब्दुल आपका एक पार्ट करेक्ट है, एक पार्ट और दे दीजिए. बताएं. शेड्यूल 2 गलत है. यहाँ पे तो मैं किसी और चीज के, कौन से और कोई शेड्यूल की बात करूं, दैट इज शेड्यूल 1. यस, कीर्ति राइट. एब्सोल्युटली करेक्ट कीर्ति. मोहम्मद 50% आपका पार्ट मुझे मिल गया. आई नीड 50% मोर. कीर्ति 100% करेक्ट. एंड वन आंसर इज शेड्यूल 2. नहीं, गलत आंसर है ये करेक्ट आंसर नहीं है. नम्रता 50% करेक्ट. मोहम्मद 50% मोर करेक्ट. सो मोहम्मद का 100% करेक्ट है. कीर्ति का 100% करेक्ट है. नम्रता, हाँ नम्रता आपने हाफ तो राइट दिया, हाफ और बता दीजिए. एब्सोल्युटली करेक्ट. सो मेरा पॉइंट क्या था, शेड्यूल 1 पैरा 4 की बात कर रहा हूं. शेड्यूल 1 पैरा 4 की बात कर रहा हूं ना. करेक्ट. तो पैरा 4 क्या कहता है, द सप्लाई शुड बी रिलेटेड पार्टी या अदर एस्टेब्लिशमेंट आउटसाइड इंडिया. अदर एस्टेब्लिशमेंट आउटसाइड इंडिया, राइट. तो इन दैट केस इट विल बी सप्लाई, अदरवाइज इट विल नॉट बी सप्लाई. तो अगर मैंने रिलेटेड पार्टी के साथ ट्रांजेक्शन किया है या मेरी कंपनी का कोई अदर एस्टेब्लिशमेंट आउटसाइड इंडिया है, तो इन दैट केस इंपोर्ट और सर्विस मेड विदाउट कंसिडरेशन विल ऑलवेज बी सप्लाई. ये कंडीशन की बात मैं कर रहा था. ठीक है. सो फ्रॉम माई साइड इट्स डन, कंप्लीटेड. थैंक यू वेरी मच. आई होप यू लाइक द डिस्कशन. एंड एज ऑलवेज जो मैं रिक्वेस्ट करता हूं, प्लीज कनेक्ट ऑन द सोशल मीडिया एंड दैट इज ओनली लिंक्डइन प्रोफाइल. सीए अरुण छाजेड़ मेरा नाम है और आपको लिंक्डइन प्रोफाइल भी सीए अरुण छाजेड़ मिलेगा. काइंडली कनेक्ट सो दैट आई वुड बी get intimated whenever you clear your exam, whenever you grow in your career. Thank you, Namrata. Great. Thank you very much and good night to all of you. अशोक जी, आप कंप्लीट कर सकते हैं आज का डिस्कशन.